Hi everybody, Chris Lupton here from Innovate Personal Training and the more recent Harrogate Fat to Fit Club. This is a recording of the presentation I used in a seminar back in July, I think it was, in Harrogate. I had a room out, I had about 15-20 people there, and basically just to kind of talk around what I've kind of learned in my time working as a personal trainer, or more specifically as a weight loss coach. So I titled this presentation The Dieting Delusion: Why Dieting Sets You Up for Short-Term Success and Long-Term Failure, and also what to do about it. And I really did it just because the more and more I've learned, and the more I see results with clients, and the more I read, people are still going to these slimming clubs and trying different diets, and you go to a library or a bookshelf, bookshop, and the number of books and different types of diets is phenomenal, and they've all got different approaches, and you can always find someone who swears by a particular type of diet to work for them. But my belief, when you take a step back, it's all just a little bit over the top and unnecessary, and I think I'll talk about it a little bit in this presentation, but the world's got itself in such a mixed up state that everyone thinks they have to diet, and what's the quick fix, rather than looking at what actually causes weight gain and obesity, and what we should do about it in the most simple, efficient way that's based on principles that never change. So yeah, here goes. So I'm basically going through two parts of the presentation. First part's all about dieting, my take on what dieting is, where it comes from, part of the problems with it, the typical slimming clubs, their approaches, a little bit of content about food and why we're not really eating proper food these days, and then a little bit of an introduction on the science of how fat loss actually works. And then the second half of the presentation is all about, in my opinion, the most important side to it, which is motivation and mindset. Now, that's a huge field, and one that you can't really cover in depth in this presentation alone. But once you've got the right mindset and you're motivated, then the rest of it should kind of fall into place. So there's a Q&A at the bottom there. Obviously, with this being a recording, there won't be any live Q&A. But when I do post this video, feel free to write some questions below on my blog post or Facebook, wherever else I post this, and you can I'll do my best to reply to them all. So first of all, why should you listen to me? So this is a brief history of where I've come from, and yeah, I was a desk jockey. I worked in an office for a number of years, got quite bored with that, and left to do the London Marathon, that's the picture of me looking a little bit younger, a bit more hair. Sort of 3.5 years ago. Absolutely fantastic experience, best day of my life bar my wedding day, and learned a lot about myself, grew confidence, started to believe that really can actually achieve anything in life. So finally gave me the confidence to leave my job, and I've always wanted to work for myself. And to cut long story short, I didn't leave to become a personal trainer, but I kind of stumbled across it, trained, set up business, and the rest is history, and it seemed like a good way to help people in a meaningful way in their lives. So personal training, this is the kind of impression that I have that other people have of a personal trainer. So luxury for celebrities, drill sergeant, which is a common one. You think you get shouted at and beasted. Rich people or celebrities have them just so they can say they've got a personal trainer. I've actually had a couple of clients who have been quite wealthy, and just seen it as something they can afford rather than something they actually want or need. Fitness instructor, it should be more about instructing fitness. Those who know me know that I tend to put the exercise and fitness side of it quite low down in terms of priorities and areas that I'm skilled in. And obviously I'm not a doctor, so everything I say and speak about, and especially in this presentation, is based on my own research and studies and courses, and it's not in place of medical advice. So that's just a little disclaimer there. So my version of personal training, what am I? Ideally, I wouldn't even call myself a personal trainer, but that's what people search for and associate with. First and foremost, I'm a motivation coach. I try and work with people's mindsets to find out, what's going to inspire them to move forward and to keep going even when things get tough. Because once your head's in the right place and you're focused on the right goals, as I say, it becomes relatively effortless. Secondly, I'm a nutrition coach. Pretty knowledgeable in that area now, although there's still a hell of a lot to learn. And with me specialising in weight loss and weight management, understanding nutrition, which is a key aspect of losing weight, that kind of comes second in list of priorities. Underneath that is weight management coach, which kind of ties the top two and the other bits together. Under that, I'm a lifestyle coach, so helping people de-stress, which is a big one. Lots of tools and techniques I can help with people on that, even if it's just talking through things that people are struggling with in life. A lot of time people just need to let off some steam with a third party and talk through the problems, so that's quite important, especially how to integrate new habits into lifestyle, should I say. Exercise coach, so you can see I've put that quite low down. Probably spend the majority of my time training people, but it doesn't necessarily make it the most important work that I do. The exercise is just a tool for facilitating change and supporting all those things above it. And last but not least, life coach. I do some pure life coaching with one or two clients, ex-personal training clients. A couple of my current weight loss clients do a little bit of life coaching work with me, and I'm actually in the middle of a internationally certified life coach qualification. And life coaching isn't banging on and telling people how to live the life, it's understanding that people are actually very resourceful and they know all the answers to all their own problems, and a life coach just kind of helps them move forwards by setting goals and helping them reframe things, which kind of ties into the motivation coach side of it. So what do I do? Well, if you go around and ask a personal trainer what they do, they'll say I'm a personal trainer, or I train people, or I get people fit. I take a bit more of a holistic approach, and those that know me know that I believe health and fitness should just be a foundation for leading a more rewarding life and doing other things, and spending time with the people that are important. You shouldn't turn into a gym bunny or a gym rat and become obsessed over it. I'm certainly not. But without your health, you've got nothing. So that's something that I believe and value, and I try and not push it on people, but just show them it from this perspective. And generally speaking, those that come who have got a lot of weight to lose, and a struggle or struggled in the past, generally aren't at their most confident, at their best. And when they do lose the weight and they do get confident and do feel healthy and they do get more energetic, they naturally lead more rewarding lives. They do more things. Their outlook on life is a lot more positive. So that's ultimately what I'm trying to do, is help people get more out of life. It's just that I happen to help facilitate that through the medium of health and fitness. And how do I do this with people? Well, I get them to dream big. So having a vision is massively important. Saying I want to lose weight, whilst that's a start, you need to have a vision of who you are, who you want to be, defining what your best self is, what you look like, what you feel like, what you act like. There's always lots of things all of us can work on, and when you start defining that and creating a vision in your own head, it becomes a lot more inspirational than I just want to drop 10 pounds. And once you start breaking down the beliefs that people have that hold them back, like I can't do this, or I'm not that kind of person, you can reframe all that stuff, and that's where the motivational life coaching work comes in. And once you kind of get past these mental blocks, you see people just move forward so fast and so effortlessly, and it's just so much more so much more successful and than throwing a bunch of exercise at it. Someone struggling, oh well, let's train them twice as hard. Doesn't really work like that. A couple of half-hour conversations to get to the bottom of a mental barrier just releases that brake, and people just see results so much faster. And I think that's the way this profession is heading for those that sort of stay on the ball. Help people once they've got a vision, turn it into reality. And I talk to all my clients about people held back by brakes. So think of a car with a handbrake. You've got the foot on the accelerator, and you've got your handbrake on. Rather than trying to press the accelerator even harder, so train even harder or get even more strict on your diet. Why not just lift that handbrake off, and as you lift the handbrake off, your car will just move forward again more effortlessly. And so rather than trying to fix things and do things faster and harder, always try and remove the brakes, remove the barriers that hold people back. And as I say, it just makes things so much easier, and it just amazes me that more trainers and more coaches don't take that approach, because it really does work. And ultimately my job is about helping people succeed. They come to me, they pay me good money for a result and a solution at the end of the day. I make a point of not saying, I sell 10 personal training sessions, because that in itself doesn't give you anything. It's about helping people from a point A to a point B in the most timely and efficient manner that suits them. And obviously that point B isn't just about losing weight, it's being in a position to take that on themselves and having learnt stuff and change their life forever. And that's ultimately what I try and do. And some people say that sounds a bit over the top for a personal trainer, but that's my approach, that's my belief, and that's what works for me. So very quick history of what I've studied, and why I've got I'm at least slightly qualified to talk about some of this stuff. I'm an EIF Master Personal Trainer. That's with European Institute of Fitness. So I did my diploma with those guys, who are the top PT school in the country, and their philosophy is very much about trying to be more than the rest out there. And I subscribe to that philosophy a lot in life. And all the rest of those things you can see listed, I'm not going to sort of mull over them. They're just what we tend to call Boy Scout badges. The names themselves don't mean anything. The point of showing you this is that I spend a lot of time studying and bettering myself, and having good success with people. And it's so much more than just being a traditional personal trainer. So the part one is all about dieting. So I'm going to give you a rundown on what the facts are of dieting, and some of this will make sense, some of it will be a bit shocking to you. So diet, this is something that it comes up in just about all of the content that I produce and the things I say to people. I probably sound like a bit of a broken record to a certain extent, but diet isn't something that you go on, although many people do. A diet is what a species habitually eats to sustain itself. It's food and drink considered in terms of its qualities, compositions and effects on health. And if we start looking at diet like that, then everything else I talk about, my approach to nutrition and weight loss and health, starts to make sense, because we don't start having names of Dukan diets and Atkins diets. It's just a diet is what you should naturally eat, i.e. the food that nature intended you to eat. Now this is a bit of a mouthful, but I'm just going to read it out. And this says that the health education in Britain, that was 30 years ago in 1983, said the previous nutritional advice in the UK to limit the intake of all carbohydrates as a means of weight control now runs counter to current thinking and contrary to the present proposals for a nutrition education policy for the population as a whole. The problem then becomes one of achieving both a reduction in fat intake to 30% of total energy and a fall in saturated fat intake to 10%. Now what that's basically saying is, back in 1983 they decided that, based on a ridiculous study that has never been proven to actually make sense. Anyone working in the health and fitness industry will have heard of a guy called Ansel Keys and his 7-country study, where he made a pathetic attempt to prove that fat caused heart disease, and then couldn't prove that, so he tried to prove that cholesterol caused heart disease, and he's never actually proved it. But one way or another, the study was taken on board by the American government, who funded most of it, and then it's just kind of worked its way over here and all over the westernized world, and it's massively misleading. And yeah, what he basically said made the governments change their opinion to a low fat intake, which is pretty much what everyone believes nowadays, and that carbohydrate intake should be higher. And if you look at the food plate or the food pyramid, everything's based on lots of starchy carbs like grains and pasta and bread and potatoes and oats and porridge and breakfast cereal, and as I said, the policy for the UK changed about 30 years ago to high carbohydrate, reduction in fat, and funnily enough, around about that time, the obesity epidemic exploded in this country. So this is a chart of the BMI for men and women in the UK. So you can see at the top left here, BMI under 18.5. That's regarded as under in a healthy weight category, or BMI category. 18.5 to 24.9 is regarded as normal. 25.9 is regarded as like heavy or overweight, and over 30 is obese. Highlighted in red here. So 30 years ago, just to let you know, I haven't got the most up-to-date statistics. Only go up to 1999, which okay, it's 13 years ago, but I can guarantee you it's still heading up in the wrong direction. So in 1982, there were 54% of the population of men in the UK were in a healthy weight category. 37%, which is still quite high, were overweight, and 6.2% were in the obese category. So yes, we've got a lot of overweight people, and that had gone up since the last 20 years, but there were still very few in the obese category. Now you fast forward 7 years, and 1 in 10 men were obese, not just overweight but obese, and then you fast forward another 10 years to 1999, and that's doubled. That 23%. That's nearly 1 in 4 men are not just overweight, they're obese, and even the overweight categories gone up to nearly 1 in 2. So just looking at this in 1999, and the statistics are worse these days. That's 50, 70. 3/4 of the population of men are either overweight or obese. That in itself is quite frightening how quickly it's happened over the years. And similar statistics for women. There's not as many percentage wise in the overweight category, 36%, which is about 1 in 3, but more women in the obese category than there are men in the obese category. That's 22%. This is over 25, so over 1 in 4 women in this country classed as obese, and compared to just 17 years before that, when those dietary guidelines changed, were just 6.9. So that's a 400%, fourfold increase in the obesity rates in just 17 years, and that coincided with when all these dietary guidelines changed. And you've got to start drawing a correlation between the two. So calories, everyone obsesses over calories. The slimming clubs, one way or another, whether they use points or actual calories themselves, they're still basically measuring calories and trying to measure energy. And the theory is that to lose weight, you've got to create a calorie deficit. So take in a certain amount of calories and try and burn more off, or look at how much you're burning and try and take more energy in. And calories was measured by or heating water, and the calories, how long it takes 1 gram of water to raise by 1 degree Celsius at standard atmospheric pressure. Now that's a very controlled scientific experiment. It's not saying a calorie is a form of energy that does X, Y, or Z inside the human body. A very controlled conditions. That 1 gram of water would behave differently at a different atmospheric condition, different air pressure. So even then we know that a calorie isn't, not all calories are created equal, and that's before we've looked at what happens in the human body. So before we start thinking, we need to create a calorie deficit, or that's all it's about, we know that energy is used to physically digest food and different types of food. It takes quite a lot of energy itself to digest protein, more than it does fat and carbohydrates. So the types of foods that you eat require different amounts of energy to digest. We know that energy is lost in other ways. So like a kettle, you heat water in a kettle and it boils, but it's losing energy all the time. It's losing it through the steam, it's losing it actually through the kettle itself, through the sides. That's why it's hot when you touch it. We're the same. We're always losing energy in different ways. So it's not just about controlling what goes in and what you physically burn off. And probably most importantly, we know that hormones control everything: weight gain, weight loss, fat loss. Whether we actually lose fat or we break down muscle. Hormones in the body are the master controllers. They're the chemical messengers that control absolutely everything. And as a lot of women will know, when they get hormonal at certain times of the month, it can control your mood. You know, they really are responsible for absolutely everything. So yeah, and the last one is, you know, it's commonly accepted that 3,500 calories is equivalent to a pound of fat. So if you, over the course of a week, if you take in 3,500 calories less than you expend in terms of energy, you should by default lose 1 pound of fat. Now, if that was true, if we kept following that model and measuring how much energy we physically burn and how much energy we physically take in, i.e. how many, you know, we count calories, and we kept creating a deficit of 3,500 calories every week for forever, you know, according to this theory, we should lose a pound every week. And why don't we just eventually vanish? You know, and some people will say, well, you know, your metabolism will slow down, or you know, your bones won't just disappear, and the rest of it. And they're valid points, but what that proves then is that if the calorie theory is correct, none of that would happen. It must be incorrect if metabolisms can slow down as we start to lose weight, and if you know, we don't just physically disappear. If we start, you know, really starving ourselves, eventually we won't lose any weight. So, despite taking in less calories than we burn, so yeah, there's absolutely no evidence to support that the calorie deficit theory actually works long term, or the actual theory behind it. A lot of people have seen this picture, fat and muscle. You know, the same weight of fat is a hell of a lot larger in size and volume than the same weight of muscle. Now, when you diet and you don't eat the right foods, you just reduce energy. You don't necessarily lose body fat. You break down muscle mass because you're trying to release some of the stored nutrients, and that means, you know, that kind of shows that it's not just about losing weight, it's about trying to lose fat. You know, you want to lose the stuff that takes up more space on your body, and the way to do that is through a clean, healthy diet, and you know, supported with exercise. So you've got 3 of the main slimming clubs there. Weight Watchers, which found this picture here, and it's not their official tagline, but it's probably reasonably suitable, and it says, for people who can't be arsed exercising and want to carry on eating shite. Now, those people who might currently be on Weight Watchers may take a little bit of offence to that, but it is tongue in cheek. And they all follow different approaches. You know, you look at the bottom there, No Lighter Life. That's quite a drastic plan, and you know, I think it's like 500 calories a day that you take in, and you know, if you're just ingesting 500 calories a day, you know, you will lose weight quite quickly. You know, but it's not exactly high in nutritional value in terms of quality of vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals and fibre and the rest of it. You know, it's just there purely just to get a lot of weight off quickly. I know that some doctors do refer out to Lighter Life, you know, very obese people, just to give them a kickstart. But again, it's based on a calorie deficit theory. Slimming World, yeah, where do I start? You need a Bible to understand this. Their methodology. You know, having healthy extras, free food, sins, red days, green days, blue days, good days, crap days, whatever. You know, I can't even be bothered to try and begin to understand it. You know, those who've been doing it a while will say it's not that hard after a while, but you know, what's particularly normal and sustainable about walking around with little diaries and books and having red days and green days and whatever colour they are? It's just I'm sorry, but I just find it absolutely absurd that that's a way to live and to exist. You know, and finally, Weight Watchers. You know, they're probably the biggest. You know, they've got a massive marketing budget. They've been going years, and there are success stories. And the point is, you know, they promote low fat, which is actually quite unhealthy. And I'll explain a bit more about this later. But every single one of your 60 trillion cells that makes up your entire body needs fat to sustain itself, but we need healthy fat. So reducing fat isn't necessarily a good thing. But all these 3 basically work off a calorie deficit, and that's pretty much what most diets work off. And if we know that the calorie deficit theory is flawed, then we have to question whether, you know, these popular and high brand, high marketing budget companies, A, if they actually work long term, and B, if they're actually in it to make a profit more than anything. So what happens when you starve the body for a prolonged period of time? Because by reducing calories on a daily basis, you're effectively starving the body over a long period of time. So what happens is, over here you start dieting. You go on your diet, you do your Weight Watchers, you do Slimming World, you see some weight come off, and like whoopee do, it's working. But slowly but surely, metabolism is slowing down. Your body's starting to see that it's getting starved of vital nutrients and not getting enough energy into it, and so it's going to start slowing the metabolism down because it thinks it could get starved in the future. And then what happens then is, eventually, whether it's a couple of months, some people do it for a year, God knows how long, you stop dieting, and you resume to normal eating. Think the weight's come off, I'm going to try and eat normally and I can manage it. But what happens is metabolism slowed down so much, or you don't know, you haven't been taught how to eat healthily, or you don't trust yourself, you've not developed good sound principles and eating habits, then weight gain happens. And this is a statistic that was taken from one of the top universities in America, where they monitored people over something like 7 years, and 95% of people who dieted and lost weight had regained the weight or even regained more. And so what happens then is you go on another diet, and that starts to work. You think it worked last time, so I'm gonna make it work this time. I know where I went wrong last time, and you go through this cycle again until maybe you think, oh God, I'm sick of trying Weight Watchers 2 times now. I know, I'll try Slimming World, maybe that'll work, and round and round and round we go. And most people who I work with and speak to can kind of relate to this stuff, because they've all done some or most of these different approaches, and the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and again and expecting different results. But these companies make a killing out of it, because they know that the dieter will always blame yourself and say, I know what I did wrong, rather than thinking, this approach is flawed. And if that does resonate with you, then hopefully what I'm going to tell you in the rest of the presentation will hopefully ring a bell with you. So the MAFF, that's the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head now. But they did a national food survey. It told us that back in 1975 we were eating just under 2,300 calories a day. And then 24 years later, so a quarter of a century later, we'd actually dropped the average number of calories that we ate to about 1,700 a person per day. So that's a 500 calorie deficit per day. And so that should give us, over the course of a week, about 3,500 calorie deficit, which is what apparently gives you 1 pound of fat loss. So if that theory is right, in this space of time, the average person should have lost 62 pounds per person, which is, it's about between 4 and 5 stone. And yet obesity has risen by tenfold in this period. We've seen the stats at the beginning. So how can we be eating less calories now than we were years ago? And yet obesity has risen, and we might have got more sedentary, but it just doesn't doesn't add up. The numbers don't add up. So what that's telling us again is it's not the amount of food or amount of energy we're taking, it's actually the type we're taking. So we looked at what the definition of diet is. Now let's look at the definition of food. Any nourishing substance that is eaten, drunk, or otherwise taken in the body to sustain life, provide energy, and promote growth. So diet is what a species habitually eats to sustain itself, and it habitually eats food, which is a nourishing substance that is eaten, drunk, or otherwise taken into the body to sustain life, provide energy, or promote growth, etc. Now, problem is, we're not eating real food. We're eating food-like products. All this, as I lovingly refer to, beige food over here. So all these different breads, pastries, chips, and different colours of oranges and browns, and there's no colour in there at all. And that's sandwiches. That's a typical diet for a lot of people. And then in the middle we've got all these sweets and chocolates, confectionaries. They've got the colours of the rainbow, but unfortunately the colours of the rainbow in these isn't natural colours. It's either the colour of the packet or the colour of the sweets inside. All those lovely E numbers that have been designed in a chemical laboratory somewhere. And, people don't even drink water nowadays. I get sick of hearing people saying that they just don't like water and they don't drink water, and yet it's the only liquid on earth that we're habitually designed to eat. And we're not designed to eat drinks or luminous coloured drinks that full of sugar or artificial sweeteners. And this is a typical diet, or makes up a large majority of a lot of people's diet. And it's just not food. It's food-like products. Things that are designed in factories and head offices somewhere to look and taste and resemble food, but actually be full of absolute junk, so that you get addicted to it. So, I'm going to look at a few of the key ingredients that aren't particularly good for us, and the first one is sugar. Now, we talk about low-fat diets being really, really good, but I could take a big bag of sugar and stick a 100% fat-free sticker on it and try and sell you it as a fat-free product. How do you like that? It's when you look at it like that, it's ridiculous. And most products that have had fat, fat reduced or fat-free, zero fat, most of them that have had the fat removed are replaced with sugar, because the human palate only really enjoys the taste of sugary, salty or fatty things. Now if you take the fat out, you need to replace it with something, so you pump it full of sugar, and without really thinking about what sugar does to the body, we just think, it's fat free. Everyone thinks fat's bad for you. I've got a marketing tool there. It's in absolutely everything nowadays. It just sweetens things up. It can act as a preservative. It's highly addictive. You hear people say that they, I've got a sweet tooth. When in matter of fact, you don't have a sweet tooth. You just become a sugar or even a carbohydrate addict, and you tell yourself these stories that you actually do have a sweet tooth, when actually it's your body just craving sweet things. And it's actually, as we'll come on to shortly, it's the primary cause of fat storage. Fat doesn't make you fat. Sugar and other processed foods do. Second one is refined carbohydrates. So I've put over here, bread, and this is supposed to be a tree. So I always say to people, have you seen a bread tree or a pasta bush or a spaghetti plant? You haven't, because they don't exist. Refined carbohydrates, breads and pastas, are actually very, very refined. They resemble nothing like the product that was grown in the ground. And when you start to look at it like that, you realise that every time it goes under a stage of processing, to be picked, to be milled, to be crushed, to be grounded, to be mixed with different ingredients to make bread, to be rolled out. It's all a form of processing, and in every single form of processing, it loses what little nutrition it actually had. So vitamins, minerals. So what you end up with is a very simple form of carbohydrate product, which is essentially similar to eating sugar, because sugar is by definition a simple carbohydrate. And once these types of carbs have been processed, the effect it has on your body is very similar to eating table sugar. And the fact it's got no nutritional value, so no vitamins and minerals, means you're just taking in energy, and you're taking in really crap energy that's going to lead to fat storage. So processed foods, microwave meals, takeaways, you name it. There are lots and lots of sources of processed foods. They're absolutely everywhere. They're massively convenient. People think one or two won't kill me, but actually, again, they're just food-like products. They're not food. The ingredients of them is, like reading a can of hairspray. It's just got all these weird and wonderful chemicals. But some of the common ones is aspartame, which is found. It's found in lots of things. Diet Coke. It's actually found in chewing gum. Nowadays, oh god, the list is endless. People are starting to cotton on that sugar's perhaps not the best thing in the world, and so the few products that don't have sugar pumped into them actually have aspartame pumped into them, which is what was called a neurotoxin. And what happens with a neurotoxin is when you ingest something with a neurotoxin in, it excites the cells, it excites the brain cells, and it stimulates you, and it stimulates the reward system in your brain. And that's why people seem to get more addicted to Diet Coke than they do to real Coke, because they've got these stimulative excitotoxins. But what happens is they overexcite the brain cells so much that yes, you get a little bit of a buzz, but it kills the brain cells. You're actually, every time you drink a can of Diet Coke, you're putting toxins there that are actually killing your brain cells. And MSG, monosodium glutamate, under loads and loads of other names too, but buy a Chinese takeaway, it'll be full of it. Lots of microwave meals, other takeaways, absolutely rammed with it, and it's supposed to be a flavour enhancer. But what people have found is if you put enough of it in products, it makes it addictive. And Pringles got a classic example. Once you pop, you can't stop. Well, it's kind of true. And why do you think a lot of people think, oh, this particular food item is so moreish, I just can't stop eating them? It's because someone somewhere who's very clever in the factory or the offices of that particular food company has thought, how can we create a customer for life? Well, what we'll do is we'll make them an addict, or we'll make our food so amazingly moreish and tasty that they just want to keep eating or drinking it. And these people are very clever, and they sit there and they understand chemicals, they understand flavour enhancers, and they specifically design these food items or food-like products to appeal to your taste buds like nothing else, and have no care or interest if they've got nutrition or what damage they're going to do. They're just interested in profits. And when you look at the side of some of these foods and they've got these chemicals in, why actually think maybe it shouldn't have that in it? I actually think why would somebody put those in there? And other than to help preserve food, they're there to tweak the various taste buds in your mouth so that you just can't help but enjoy eating lots of it. People, these food companies are out there to take you for a ride, basically. And the last one is trans fats, which is chemically altered fats, also known as hydrogenated fats. They're in a lot of vegetable oils, again a lot of takeaways. These spreads that you get, so rather than eating butter, say I'll have margarine, they're all chemically altered fats, which are just so bad for you. They're one of the biggest contributors to heart disease in the country, and a lot of people get them mistaken for saturated fats, which is why saturated fat's got a bad rap, but it actually hasn't. Saturated fat is a type of fat that occurs naturally. Trans fat is something that's chemically altered to give food a shelf life, and also increase your chances of heart attack. So this is I can't remember what brand, but this is a blueberry muffin, as you can see, and this classic golden topped muffin is a wonderfully sweet and chock full of the flavour of plump wild blueberries. Perfect for breakfast on the run. You can enjoy this right out of the package, or for a more leisurely meal, enjoy it with your favourite coffee or tea. So this food that's designed, you can have as a breakfast on the run, to really kickstart your day and to make you, set you up for the day. Breakfast really important. If that's what it does, sets you up for the day and you can have it on the run. So you'd expect this breakfast item to be full of, really solid nutrition that's going to make you feel good. But when we look at the ingredients, go back one. Look at all these things in here: water, wheat protein isolate, wheat gluten, phosphate, lactic acid, sugar, glycerol, thiamine, mono, nitrate, riboflavin, non-fat dry milk. I'm just picking them at random here. Monocalcium phosphate, sodium carbomyox methacrylose. I can't pronounce that. All sorts of wonderful and weird and wonderful ingredients in this one. Now I've highlighted here 3 times propylene glycol. That's a chemical that comes under a number of names, but propylene glycol is actually used in products that help metal pipes from freezing when it gets cold in the winter. People use them. It's a chemical that's partly used in compounds to stop your radiator pipes in cold houses from freezing, or even actually using the bottom of cars to stop some of their parts of the engine freezing. So it's good to know that if you have one of these lovely blueberry muffins, that one of the chemicals in there is actually used to winterize metal piping. So what about the Weight Watchers from Heinz chocolate brownies with Belgian chocolate and vanilla mousse, chocolate sauce and chocolate curls? Sounds pretty tempting. Obviously, Weight Watchers, they're a good diet, aren't they? They look out for us. Haven't they been so kind to create their own range of food? It's pork gelatine in there, xanthan gum sorbitol syrup, modified potato starch. Sugars just featuring absolutely everywhere. Vegetable oil, which is almost like a trans fat. Locust bean gum, guar gum, gelling agent. All sorts of, not quite as many as the blueberry muffin, but a lot lot of stuff in there. You know, if you were going to make your own chocolate brownie at home, would you have this list of ingredients to go out to the shop and buy? No, you wouldn't. You know, so you've got to ask yourself, why do they put all this stuff in there, other than to give it a shelf life and to make it, or attempt to make it moreish to the taste buds. And I suppose the great thing about Weight Watchers is they devised a point system and then realised that people were struggling to count points. So what do? They release their own brand of food. So not only do they sell you on the Weight Watchers Slimming Club approach, they say, here's a point system, and to make your life easier, go and spend all your money shopping with on our brand. So, you know, fair dues to them. You know, one of the most genius business models of the 20th century. And again, another example that you know, are they there to make a few quid out of you? So fat loss is actually about hormones. As I said before, I'm not going to go into a big lecture here about all of them and how they work, but they all play a part, and this is just some of them. Most important one is insulin. So insulin is released and when you eat sugar or carbohydrates, and if you have sugars that are too simple or carbohydrates or product food that's too high in carbohydrate content, your body won't like it, your blood sugar will raise, and the only way to get blood sugar out of your blood is to release insulin, which basically is like a bus, and it takes all the excess sugar and carbohydrate out of your bloodstream to a nice safe place called your fat cells. And then what happens then is it probably takes a little bit too much sugar out of your bloodstream and stores it in your fat cells, and then you get this energy dip because your blood sugar's too low, and it sends a message to your brain and says, oh, you know, I need energy, I need a quick fix, I need something sweet, I need something starchy, I need some carbohydrates. And so, you know, you reach for the chocolate bar, you reach for the bread, you reach for that quick fix, and what happens? Oh well, there's too much sugar again in your bloodstream, so body kicks out some insulin again, and it takes off all the excess blood sugar plus a bit more to be stored as fat. So you know, you're in the middle of storing fat constantly, and you're constantly having energy dips, and so you're constantly craving carbohydrates, and the cycle just continues and continues. And to make matters worse, there's a hormone called glucagon, which is responsible for taking the fat out of your fat cells and putting it back into the body to be metabolized and burnt as fat. Now, so that means you obviously want glucagon to be working, and we don't want insulin to be working. But the problem is they're both released from the same gland, they're released from the pancreas, and they can't work in synergy. So you can't be storing fat by eating too many carbs with insulin being kicked out, and your body also trying to burn fat at the same time by glucagon being released. It just doesn't work like that. So there's it's a double whammy. There's two reasons to stop eating sugar and refined carbohydrates. You stop, your insulin gets under control, your blood sugar gets under control, which means your energy levels get under control, and it also gives fat burning friend here, glucagon, time to do his job, which is getting the fat ready and metabolized. And the other important one, even though you've got other hormones on here like ghrelin, leptin, they're hunger and full hormones. They're the ones that give your brain a signal that you're either full or hungry. The other important one to control is cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And again, when you're chronically stressed all the time, your body's constantly pumping out cortisol to try and prepare you for whatever stressful situation you're in. It actually puts a massive brake on being able to lose fat, and that's why I make such a big deal out of it. But to be honest, it's an uphill battle for me to help people who are stressed and struggling to lose weight understand that, because the myth's been for so long that they need to stop eating as much food and they just need to exercise. But if you're really stressed and not losing weight, doing more exercise is actually going to do you worse, because exercise is a stressor in itself. So sometimes you just need to back off everything, continue eating well, and just take some time to chill out and try and get your stress levels under control. And that's sometimes again all it can take to get you moving forward again. And that's another example of releasing that handbrake rather than pressing on the accelerator, which is what doing a load of extra exercise would do. So nutrition is very simple. I've just realised I've missed off eggs off that picture. So eggs are included, but it's fish, meat, nuts and seeds, lots of fresh fruit, lots of fresh veg, and lots of water. Fruit grows on trees or bushes. Vegetables grow, in plants and underground. Fish, obviously swim in the sea. Red meat, white meat. Animals roam around. Nuts grow on trees. This is all stuff that you could basically either catch or kill, or hunter or gather in its most natural form, and maybe with a little bit of cooking you could eat it. You don't need to process a salmon other than to maybe skin it. You don't need to process the meat, you just chop it up. You pick some fruit, you eat it. You can grow a vegetable, you eat it. There's nothing processed there, and that's why things like pasta and bread are actually processed, because they're as I said before, they go under quite a lot of processing to get to their state that they're on the shelf. So a little bit about metabolism, so going off on a slightly different topic here, and this could be a little bit tricky to understand, but this whole box on the right, this is your daily metabolism, i.e. how much energy or how many calories you burn over the course of a day. And 15% of that total energy you spend during a day, including physical high intensity exercise plus low level exercise, is only responsible for about 15% of the energy you burn. So whilst you think you go to the gym and you're burning all this energy, it only contributes to a small amount of your overall energy expenditure. Again, digesting food actually uses up quite a lot of energy to break the food down to different molecules. That's about 15%. But 70% of the energy you spend on a daily basis is what's called your basal metabolic rate. So that's the number of calories or the amount of energy you would burn if you just lied in bed all day long, 24 hours, and didn't do anything. And that accounts for 70%. So what that tells us is most of the energy that you burn is when you're asleep and when you're not doing anything. Your body is constantly burning energy to make your heart beat, make your lungs work, turning over new cells. You're constantly expending energy, and if most of the energy you expend in a day, i.e. this 70%, is done when you're asleep and just when you're going about your daily business, it makes sense to try and influence that. Try and see if we can get the most out of that, rather than trying to burn all the energy in the gym and actually try and physically burn it during the hour at the gym. What we want to be doing is influencing this 70%, and the way we can do that is by resistance training, lifting weights, body weight training, high intensity cardio, so short sharp bursts, a little bit of long slow cardio such as walking, ideally a combination of all three. If you do all these three, that basal metabolic rate, the number of calories you burn at rest is, might be 1,000 at the moment, but if you do these things and create lean muscle mass and create like an afterburn, so you know what it's like when you've done hard intensive exercise in the gym, you go home and you might have a shower and then you suddenly feel hot and warm again. That's your metabolism going through the roof and your body burning all this extra energy, and you'd rather be burning energy for 3, 4, 10, 12, 24 hours after exercise than you would in that 1 hour that you're actually in the gym. So I hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't, feel free to message me about that. And weight loss is not just about aesthetics. There's lots of things, other benefits. Improves your energy levels, clearer skin, better sleep, improved mood, and reduced risk of lifestyle diseases. Because people who come to me who want to lose a lot of weight, they know they're not particularly healthy, but it's mainly about the aesthetics to them, which is fine in principle. But it is important to remember that carrying excess body weight, or should we say excess body fat, puts a strain on a lot of your internal organs and can lead to a lot of lifestyle diseases and ultimately death if we're not careful. So it is important to consider that side to it. So part 2 is all about motivation and mindset, and this is a huge field again, and the bits I'm going to take you through isn't necessarily a motivating or motivational presentation. It's just to explain a little bit about how to get motivated and what kind of mindset to have, and how to set goals to keep yourself moving forward. So I once read this on a studio of the UK's leading personal trainer, Dax Moy. He's got this on his wall, and it's something that resonated with me. And amazing people do not just happen. So what that means is you can create yourself, you can reinvent yourself at any point in time, and all this stuff, whilst I'm a weight loss coach, this can be applied to any area of your life. Amazing people do not just happen. Amazing people define who they want to be, what results they want. They work at them. They work at things. They learn. They grow. They educate themselves. They realise that there'll always be setbacks, and they just keep pulling away and chipping away in different directions until they become a better version of themselves. And in relation specifically to weight loss. People don't just wake up one morning and have lost an amazing amount of weight. They've had to be strict with nutrition. They've had to change their lifestyle. They've had to exercise regularly, for months, sometimes years with people. But most importantly, they've had to learn a lot about themselves going through that process and become a more amazing and better version of themselves. So motivation is a reason to act in a certain way. These are all dictionary definitions again. A motive, which is related to motivation, is something that causes a person to act in a certain way, or the goal or object of a person's actions. So, if we're going to get detailed about it, by definition, somebody cannot motivate you. They can help you find your motivation, your motive, but somebody can't motivate you because motivation is based on a motive, and a motive is a goal or object of a person's actions. That motive needs to come from you. And that's why if you don't spend some time exploring what your real motive is for doing something, the perceived motive, like I want to look a bit better, sometimes isn't enough. Sometimes if you go a bit deeper and find that you want to look better, well, why? So give more confidence. Why do you want more confidence? So I can meet a new partner. Why do you want to meet a new partner? Because I want to feel loved. It might sound a bit deep, but that's ultimately what happens. And then what that means is that's the true motive, and that's the motivation. And the more honest and clear you can get on these, true motives, it just makes the rest a lot easier, because you've got the most underlying core reason for doing something, and not just the superficial reason. And mindset down here, it's related to motivation. It's all about your attitudes. So you might have a good motive, but if you've got the wrong attitude or intentions to begin with, you're onto a potential loser. So it's important to get your attitude right, focus in the right directions, and that coupled with the right motivation, makes everything just that a million times easier. So ultimately, it's about finding true inspiration inside yourself. That's what motivation, of being motivated, is. It's about what inspires you most to do something. And here's a question for you: who could you be 6 months from now, and why does that matter? And if you actually stop for a second, and again, the weight loss, changing your body is quite important, but think of this more holistically, and what would that weight loss give you, and who could you be as a person 6 months from now? If you made lots and lots of changes, if you could define the person you wanted to be, the life you wanted to lead, the changes you wanted to make, the very best vision that you hold of who you could be, who could you be 6 months from now? And once you get clear on that, and you ask why does that matter, if it doesn't matter, then that's fine. You're either you may be too scared of really making big changes and being a better version of yourself, or you just don't believe that becoming that person is actually possible. If you get clear on the why, why, and let's relate it to weight loss. If you say, in 6 months' time, I want to be 3 stone light, I want to be, lean, I want to be toned, I want to be full of energy, I want to be healthy. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because it's going to help me, again, be more confident. Meet the man or woman of my dreams. It's going to allow me to play with my kids for longer without getting out of breath. It's going to mean that my kids, grow up to see me grow old and not, sort of knock 10, 20 years off my life because I'm not looking after myself. Once you get clear on those reasons as well as that vision, you'll feel a lot more inspired. And when you feel more inspired, you've got the right mindset and you're motivated, and hopefully you can see how all this stuff kind of ties in together. So step one of kind of moving forward, and I go through this stuff in a million times more detail when I work one-on-one with people in weight loss and life coaching and whatever that goal may be. But it's important, you must dream big. You've got to have a clear goal. Once you've got a goal, make sure it's not just some, I'd like to lose half a stone, the typical things you come out with. Because if whilst there's nothing wrong with that, and you only have to lose half a stone, it's not exactly inspiring. Yes, it's a smaller goal, but a smaller goal should be part of a big dream, and it goes back to having that vision. A lot of people struggle with this stage, having a big dream or having a vision, because their little voice in their head starts thinking, well, how would you do that, or should you be thinking that? And that's what holds people's back. And if you can just forget how you would ever go about achieving something, so just dream the best dream you can dream and have the best vision for yourself, and forget how you'd ever accomplish it, and forget whether you think it's possible or not, and forget whether you have a right to think that or not. Just think of what you really, 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 really want, and who you want to be. It gives it some meaning and purpose, and once you get clear on that, with the help of perhaps a coach or a trainer, you can start putting the pieces in place to find out how you can actually go about achieving that. But as I put down here as a quote here, that a big enough why will overcome any how. So when you've got a big vision with a big why, why you want it and why is it so important to you, you'll always find a way forward, because a big enough why will always overcome any how. So the first part was have a clear goal. So goal. Second part is reality. So goal is point B. You know where you want to be. To get to point B, you need to know where you are at the moment. So reality is really your point A. Where are you right now in relation to your goal? How far away are you? Questions like that. And then you need to get clear on what's preventing you from having your goal right now. So if people who come to a personal trainer, this is one of the first questions I ask them. Why do you need my help? Why can't you do it on your own? And again, these are those breaks. And some people might say, I can't get motivated. I need the accountability. I've got in such a bad downward spiral, I just can't seem to snap myself out of it. Once you start seeing what the obstacles are, or those handbrakes that I talk about, it makes your job easy. It makes my job easy, because I know that those are the handbrakes that I need to help you start lifting, or those obstacles I need you to start moving. And then a couple more questions to ask yourself about where you are at the moment is, pain-inducing questions of not acting, and that's that basically means, what would happen to me if I took no action? What would happen if I just stood still? And how would I feel? Well, chances are, let's relate it to weight loss, you'd feel shit, because in 6 months' time you'd think, I wish I'd taken action. I wish I wasn't still fat. I wish I wasn't still overweight. I wish, I really, really wish I'd done those things, and make it like feel horrible to just not take action. Sort of really frighten your brain basically into wanting to take action. And so that's your kind of like your stick, so to speak, and your carrot is ask pleasure-inducing questions. How will I feel in 6 months' time if I've taken action? I've done something every day to move me forwards. I'll feel amazing. In 6 months' time, imagine I could easily lose 3 stone in 6 months, and imagine what my life will be like. Everything will be so much better. And that's the kind of carrot. And when you start asking both these questions, again, it's trying to train your brain to thinking it's standing still, not doing anything is the worst thing that could possibly happen to me, and at the same time, taking action and doing something is one of the best things that could happen in my life, and that's going to help give you momentum. And another quote at the moment here is, we only keep moving forwards in the direction of what makes us happy. And once you get clear on the direction that is going to make you happy, you will just naturally start walking or running forwards. So we've had stage 1, which is define a goal. Stage 2, which is reality. So you've got your points A and B. You know where you are, where you need to be. Now you need to know what your options are. There isn't always just one option for moving forwards. There's normally lots. What things could you do starting today? Or I could go exercise. I could join a gym. I could cut out the pie. Stop eating cake. I could drink more water. I could up my veg intake. I could find time to de-stress. I can ask for support from my partner. The options are endless, and whilst many of those things I've just said might all be relevant, it's important to explore all the options you have. And once you've explored the options, it's important to keep exploring and come up with even more ideas. And sometimes too many options, people say, can cause procrastination and indecision, but it's better to have lots of options in front of you, because when you do have lots of options in front of you, you will always pick the best one or two that is going to move you forward the easiest. The options that you might pick to move you forward in a certain area could be different to the options that I would pick. And that's important, because there's no point me telling you what options to choose if they're not the things that you feel most comfortable with. And as I've put here, we're actually incredibly resourceful. People have just forgotten how to be resourceful. Once you tap into that and realise that you've got all these options available, all these decisions to make, all these choices, it's actually not that difficult. It's just a question of kind of reframing it to realise that you know, you can make these decisions, you know, and ultimately you can make these decisions by yourself. And step 4 is what will you do and when. So, you know, you've got your goal, you've got your point B, you've got your reality, which was step 2, which was point A. So you know where you are, where you want to go to, you know all the options that you've got. Now you need to start taking action. So what will you do? And when you start goal setting like this and taking action, it's important to, you know, actually choose one that you feel 100% in accomplishing. So what option are you completely committed to doing? And, you know, start putting a date and time for acting and make yourself accountable, rather than saying I'll give up bread. Well, you know, how about us starting from tomorrow morning, I'm no longer going to eat bread for, you know, 3 weeks or whatever, you know. And make sure you take action. You know, you can talk about all this stuff, but if you don't take action, nothing happens. Everything that happens in our life is a consequence of the action we've taken. And, you know, a quote here from the world's sort of top life coaches: it's in the moments of decisions that our destinies are shaped. So in those kind of moments of decision, when we decide to take action, we're actually creating a better future for us. And if we don't make a decision, and we don't take action, nothing happens. We're not actually changing the future, and we're not actually giving ourselves any chance of getting a result of any sort. So what have we just done then? Step 1 was goal, step 2 was reality, step 3 was options, step 4 was what will you do and when. And that's an acronym for a goal setting tool that we use in coaching called GROW. And the GROW model is actually very, very simple and very, very useful, because when you want to challenge yourself and make changes and become a better version of yourself, and if that better version of yourself is changing your mindset, changing lifestyle habits, losing weight, becoming slimmer, you need to stretch yourself. You know, it's not, you can't just do it by taking baby steps. You need to go in from out of your comfort zone into the learning zone, or what we also call the stretch zone. If you push yourself too far and you go into the panic zone, that's not good, because you just feel far too uncomfortable and you'll revert back to comfort zone. But in terms of motivation and mindset, you know, you grow as a person. You know, here's that word, you grow and become more comfortable and more motivated, and your belief in yourself improves when you step outside of your comfort zone and start stretching yourself a little bit. It's important to keep moving forward. And you know, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I think it's important in any area of life to you know, constantly stretch yourself, learn new things, challenge yourself, learn a little bit more about yourself. And each time you do that, and you grow as a person, you just become more successful. Things happen more effortlessly, and you're just automatically more motivated to do basic things like eat well and exercise, because you're realising that you're becoming a better and better person and a better version of yourself, and you just want to follow healthy habits to fuel and sustain that. And lastly, here is all that's left to do is you've got to believe in this stuff. You've got to believe you can do it. If you don't believe, then you won't achieve, basically. And I put this little sentence up here and asked people to read it out to me when I did the presentation. And you know, some of you watching this, when you first read it, will have read a certain one thing. You know, the others will have read a different thing. Some of you who read it a certain way to begin with will have thought, I get it now. But I could read that as the answer is nowhere, or you can read it, the answer is now here. And the reason I've put that in there is because it's quite clever, I suppose. It's contrasting messages written the same way, and what I'm trying to show is this all depends on you having belief, and the only way you can have belief that you can do things and you can succeed is how you look at things. And if you're looking at things from an angle that doesn't serve you very well, i.e. there's no answer here, well, try looking at things a little bit differently, reframing it, and you can see that the answer is now here. And reframing your perspectives on the world, and perspectives and opinions on diets and weight loss and fitness is very important. You know, even if you don't quite agree or buy into someone's philosophy, I always say walk around the where you are from, you know, walk around the corner, look at it through a different window, look at it from a different perspective, and just, whilst the content's the same, just being able to look at things a little bit differently can have a massive impact on your mindset and motivation, because you can suddenly think, now I get it, now I see where they're coming from, I'm not stuck in my old ways. So summary really I've been through is, most importantly, is myth of the calorie theory, why it doesn't necessarily add up to weight loss. The massive problem with dieting and slimming clubs, and the problem is that they're based on low fat, which is unhealthy, and they're based on the calorie deficit, which isn't proven to work long term. And obviously there's that thing about slowing down your metabolism so that you keep rebounding and gaining weight, and it's just not sustainable. I've spoken a little bit about what makes us fat, which is mainly sugar, processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and how to reverse it, which is controlling your hormones, which is done by controlling your nutrition, and also affecting your metabolism, which was not trying to think I need to burn as much energy as possible in my exercise session, because you just won't physically be able to do it. It's about affecting your resting metabolic rate, which is energy burn whilst you're resting and sleeping, and we do that through good nutrition, weight training, and interval training, and some longer, slower pace stuff, like just making sure we walk regularly. Had a look at motivation and mindset, and as I say, that's a huge area. But I've just kind of explained what motivation is, and it's really about trying to get inspired, because it's, by definition, it's impossible for someone to motivate you, but they can help you find that motivation. And looking a little bit about how to go through a traditional goal setting model, looking at where you are, where you want to be, what options you've got to get there, and then committing to doing something. And yeah, this is just a little cartoon at the end here, which says it took a lot of willpower, but I finally gave up dieting. And my message to anyone I work with or don't work with, at least listen to what I have to say, ask questions, because I firmly believe that my approach makes sense, and if you do follow it, you'll see amazing results, and you'll actually give up dieting. And last but not least, another silly little cartoon, but I've put Monday never comes, just because the amount of people, most of you watching this, listening to this video, this will resonate with you. Have a heavy weekend, or you just feel fat on a Monday, or you think that it was going so well until you went out the Monday. Let's wait until next Monday. Let's start a diet again. When you go shopping, let's fill my shopping trolley full of a few veggies and give myself a false hope that this diet's going to work this time. When don't kid yourself. Hopefully from what I've shown you, diets do not work long term. So yeah, thank you for listening rather than thank you for coming. If you've got any questions, feel free to write them underneath or above this video, depending on where it gets posted. And thank you very much for listening.